Hi, and welcome to Mrs. Pam Reads, where we're continuing in our story, The Magic Circle by Katherine Neville. In our last video, and I'm looking down so I don't make too many mistakes about it, Ariel and Wolfgang were talking about their own Vane in his relationship with Sam, in his relationship with Oliver, and then we get to nuclear weapons again, and she wants to know what's going on with Russia. Wolfgang asks her about Kishtam, and apparently it was a nuclear meltdown, and he wanted to know, did she think it was an accident? And so they have a big discussion about that, and some young man named Nikola Tesla, and the fact that he had done some research that was never published, but Hitler perhaps had found it. And there's just all this references back to history and possibilities. And Ariel's question at the end of the last video was, what does all this have to do with Pandora and her manuscripts? So we're getting ready to find that answer out, I think. But Wolfgang, okay, so she asked the question, but Wolfgang had stopped dead on the walk to gaze through the mist rising from the Champs de Mars to where the Eiffel Tower loomed like an apparition before us. Looped up its sides, a message in neon letters was spelled out. Dos cent ans. My best French, which apparently means 200 years. Good Lord. I glanced quickly at Wolfgang, who'd started laughing. Though I mentioned it to myself, to you, only last week, I'd already forgotten, he told me. This year, 1989, is the 200th anniversary of the French Revolution. But 1789 was also the year the new element uranium was discovered by Klaproth in Saxony. He named it after the planet Uranus that another German, Herschel, had discovered with his sister at their observatory in England not 10 years earlier. These three events marked the beginning of the destruction of the old aeon your grandfather was speaking of, and Uranus became regarded as the planet governing the new age, the age of Aquarius. I think that's what Pandora's manuscripts are all about. Do you see the connection? I began to say I didn't get it, but all at once, I thought I did. Prometheus? I said. Wolfgang snapped his eyes from the neon lights and stared at me in surprise. That's correct, he said. In the myth, Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to men, just as in the coming age, as Dacian Basarides said, the water bearer pours out a great life force for mankind. Such gifts often turn out to be curses as much as blessings. In the Prometheus myth, Zeus turned around and gave us Pandora. She opened a box, a jar actually, and released all the evils into the world. But there are those who don't think the story of Prometheus and Pandora was totally a myth. I suspect your grandmother, Pandora, must have been among them. You think the manuscripts Pandora collected told how to make a nuclear pile? Or how to tap into the Earth's energy forces? I said. But I understood that her documents were ancient, or at least much older than any modern technology or inventions. Most inventions would be better termed discoveries, or even rediscoveries, said Wolfgang. I don't know if the ancients had such a knowledge, but I do know that there are places on the planet where the components of sustainable chain reactions, radioactive materials, heavy water, and other ingredients, exist together naturally. It has often been commented that in the Bible and other early texts describe scenes very much resembling atomic explosions. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah is only one, just as there are indeed specific spots on the Earth's surface most conducive to Tesla's power vortices, artificial creation of thunderstorms and ball lightning, and harmonic oscillations. All this science stuff. Woo. In most of these places, we know that the ancients built monuments, raised standing stones, or left shamanistically significant cave art well before recorded history. But even if all Pandora's documents were collected, translated, decoded, deciphered, and understood, what would someone be able to do with the knowledge? I said in frustration. Why would it be dangerous? Since I've only just glimpsed the documents for a few minutes myself, clearly I don't know all the answers, Wolfgang said, but I do know two things. First, the early philosophers from Pythagoras to Plato believed the Earth was a sphere suspended in space through equilibrium and attuned to the music of the spheres. But the details of the power sources themselves were always kept veiled, since they were believed to be a key element of the mysteries, capital M. On his deathbed, just before Socrates drank hemlock, he told his disciples that the Earth, if viewed from above, resembles one of those balls made of 12 pieces of skin in different colors. That is the description not of a sphere, but of the largest Pythagorean polygon, the dodecahedron, a figure of 12 sides where each face is a pentagon. This was the most sacred form of Pythagoras and the Pythagoreans. They conceived of the Earth as a gigantic crystal. Today we'd say crystal set, a transmitter that harnessed energy from the heavens or the depths of the Earth. They thought it could be used for psychic control on a broad scale if one manipulated these key pressure points. And further, they imagined that the forces within the Earth, if properly tuned, would vibrate like a tuning fork to harmonic correspondences in the sky. Okay, I said, let's say the Earth really is a gigantic energy grid, as everyone seems to think. Then I could certainly understand why people who were after power would want to get their hands on that hidden map of trigger points. But when it comes to mysteries, let's not forget that Socrates and Pythagoras, despite all the secrets they knew, or maybe because of them, got wiped out by popular demand. Whatever hidden knowledge they had certainly didn't save them in the end. Anyway, I added, you said there were two things you knew about Pandora's documents. What's the second? The second is what Nikola Tesla believed, which wasn't such a very different picture from what I've just described, said Wolfgang. He thought the Earth contained a form of alternating current that was continually expanding and contracting at the rate that was difficult but not impossible to measure, rather like the rhythm of breathing or of a heartbeat. Okay, so I've got a scan running. I hope it doesn't shut us off. If it does, we'll pick up where it cuts me off. Okay, a heartbeat. He said that by placing a load of TNT in the right place at the right time, just when a contraction was beginning, he could split the earth itself in pieces as a boy would split an apple. And by tapping into this current, this energy grid, he could harness unlimited power. For the first time in man's history, Tesla said, he has the knowledge with which he may interfere with cosmic processes. Okay, this is a historical fiction written in 1989. So I'm just putting that out there. Holy S word. Wolfgang looked up at the Eiffel Tower for a moment, its small red beacon at the top, nearly lost in the silvery mists. Then he slipped one arm around me as we stood there in silence. If Tesla, like Prometheus, gave mankind a new kind of flame, Wolfgang said, maybe Pandora's knowledge will prove to be both the world's own gift and punishment. And we're going to stop there. And that is a natural stopping space. So the next section is titled Good and Evil. I don't know about you, that was a lot of science and interesting ideas. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a great day. And I will see you next time. Find out what happens in this story. Bye.